And I would like to start my own little cheering section for our keynote speaker today, Dr. Layla Rack. And Dr. Rack is the founder and partner of Rack Enterprises, a consulting firm that takes an uncommon sense approach to deliver genuine ideas that challenge tradition. So Layla, I would say you have the floor, but you now have the screen for the next 20 minutes. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Abby. It is delightful to be with you today. I'm in Henderson, Nevada, so it is morning. It is 10 a.m. And so I want to first recognize the incredible work that Women in Travel Thrive have done and will do. And I think it is especially proper if I acknowledge Sylvia, Abby, Abigail, Melissa. I could go on and on. There are so many women who have contributed to make this organization a reality. You are my new heroes, and I'm just delighted to be working with you. So I've been asked to talk to you today about your career. And so what I'm going to say is about moving forward from the ravages of COVID. And while we're not through it yet, we will be. And the point of that is now is the time to begin preparing for the next phase of your career. And so what I ask you to do is I ask you to listen. I ask you not to stop listening because perhaps what I say, it makes you afraid, or you don't want to hear it, or whatever. The point is, in order for you to succeed, listening is vital. Then you need to make decisions if what you heard is appropriate for you. And so let's begin. I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself. And what I can say to you is I grew up in the hospitality industry. My grandmother owned a restaurant for more than 40 years in my small town of Spring Green, Wisconsin. And from her, from my mother, from my sisters, my brothers, my father, I learned about a work ethic. And so from that foundation, I then began to realize who I was. And what I can tell you is belief is fundamental to me. I believe in myself. I've worked hard to understand myself, to trust myself. I am direct, straightforward, and thoughtful. And in return, that's what I expect from the people I work with. And not everyone is ready to do that. And so what I want to say to you is one of the things I do to keep me on my path, because it is mine, is I find quotes that speak to me. And the great Mary J. Blige said it so well. And when I read it, it gives me strength. Believe in yourself when nobody else does. Because fundamentally, if I don't believe in myself, why should I ask anyone else to? And then I think, why should anyone else be asked to if I don't? So I encourage you that when you are wavering, find a quote, a picture, a song. It doesn't matter to me what it is, but something that helps you get back on your path of belief. And so today when I speak to you, I'm going to speak about intangibles, but I'm also a very practical person. And so I will give you as well practical ideas. What I'm providing today is advice. And advice should be free unless you're doing executive coaching, and then it's not free. But the point being, what I am saying, you have to decide if that is good for you. Because it's not just listening to someone and then saying, oh, okay, that's what I'll do. I don't know if that's right for you. So I encourage you. And again, I have another saying. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. But I have to tell you, until I found another quote about that, which I'm showing you on the right side of the screen, from the unapologetic, exquisite Black queen, Stephanie Lahart. She says, and I'm going to read this, don't be afraid to stand first. And I have to come up to my screen because I cannot see all of it, because to stand firm on the decisions that you make. Trust yourself, believe in your instincts, do what works best for you. Stay true to yourself and be good to yourself. Allow every decision that you make to empower, enrich, and add value to your life. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I found her and her statement. And so for some of you, this may sound a bit Pollyanna, but if you really know me, this is exactly who I am. And that's what I'm trying to start with. Know who you are. And that is not to say that I haven't become more or things haven't changed, but I'm constant in my journey of really knowing what I mean and meaning what I say. And so I encourage you, again, to look at those things that will make you passionate, that help you move forward. And why do I say that? Well, it is very clear. I must step forward again. I do apologize. That this has been, the past year was a year of unintended consequences. Many listening have lost their jobs. And as Abby said earlier, the impact on women has been extraordinary in the negative. And in losing your job, you found yourself facing enormous uncertainty. But I'm going to remind you of something. You did not lose your job because of you. You lost your job because of something that is so much bigger than all of us. See, you are not responsible for this. And that's the very first thing to realize. Asking yourself what else I could have done, it's not going to get you anywhere for numbers of reasons. But number one, you were not responsible. All of us, regardless of whether we lost our job or not, whether we didn't get a promotion we expected, whether we didn't get a raise we expected, whether we lost team members, all of us had our plans upended. Each one of us has struggled with the changes to the rhythm of our life, and that is why we find ourselves at times, some of us more isolated, some of us perhaps more angry, it doesn't matter what it is. But in that, I am suggesting as you move forward, make sure you recognize you are not to blame for any of it. And there is still positive and joy that you can find. Having said that, what matters to me is how you respond to unintended consequences. That really is the measure of you as a professional. It is truly the measure of you in your career. So I ask you, as you look at what is happening, what has happened to you, are you looking at how you are going to build your future? And that means knowing about yourself. So when you're in the midst of unintended consequences, are you determined or hesitant? Are you confident or fearful? Are you resilient or tenuous? You see, in my mind, it matters how we face what is put in front of us. And that doesn't mean from the very beginning, I don't want any of you to think I'm setting the bar so high that you couldn't reach it without 3 ladders. That isn't what I'm saying to you. But I am saying, once you get over the shock of whatever it is, That is when you must know how you're going to look at your career, how you intend to put it back on track, make it better. That would be my definition. And so I encourage you, know how you have responded to this. I, I believe in knowing how one measures up. And why? Because then when I get in an interview or when I'm in a meeting with someone who has influence over my career, my boss, a senior member of the team, I am ready to talk about myself in very thoughtful, consistent ways. And so, from the intangible aspect of things, what are your most dominant professional habits and your most problematic traits? Know what abilities define you. Are you driven to learn and think? These abilities in many ways reflect myself. I put them down because I wanted to spur thought. They don't have to be yours at all. But you do need to know 3 or 4 of your top abilities that define you. And so it is thinking about yourself. It's thinking about what you don't put on paper, because that's what your resume is. It is paper, and I don't care if it's virtual or real. You get my point. But it's 2D, it's flat. And so you're the one who has to make your career come to life, your resume come to life. So I encourage you to do a review or an assessment. And I encourage you in a time like this to really do it more often. What do I mean? Most of us should be at least doing an annual assessment. Maybe you're going to do it quarterly in 2021 or every 6 months. But really, the beginning of it is, what did you learn about yourself as a result of last year? If I am going to be going to be promoted within my company or for a new position, I want to be able to speak with great clarity if I'm asked how 2020 impacted me. So did you reinvent yourself? I put that there because I had to reinvent my business. And because what I do, I did in person. And guess what? Starting in March, there was no in person. Did your career shift? Did you think you were going in one direction and bingo, it went in another? And do you know what you offer that is different from others in your generation? See, I am of a different generation than many of you. And so why I can give advice, recognize that my experiences at your time of life are far different than yours. Just as my mother. You know, my grandma had a 3rd grade education. My mother graduated high school. All 5 of her children graduated college. And so it continues. And just that alone is a very small difference. Know what blind spots you struggle with. And I struggle with these, making assumptions. And I struggle with jumping to conclusion. And so this really helped me. When I jump to a conclusion, I immediately think of it as bad exercise. It makes me laugh. It makes me stop. It makes me realize I'm going down a path I don't want to be going down. And so again, I encourage you. Some of you are overconfident. I don't want you to be underconfident. I want you to recognize the difference between hubris and confidence. And there are big differences. And so think about what you struggle with. And if you desire to be a leader, you really need to know this. Or if you are a leader, you should know what you're doing to your team currently because of your blind spots. So decide to succeed. Absolutely break free from what held you back. or what you're afraid to do. Recognize there is great opportunity coming. When it's coming, I don't know. Nobody can really tell you that. But I'm going to be ready. See, that's the point. I'm not going to wait till I clearly see it. I'm going to be ready. And so, as I get ready to close, I want to quote, I want to give you another quote that I love, and it's by Oscar Wilde. Be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. I wish you the very best in your journey as you look at your career, as you mold your career, as you influence your career. And I hope that you really think, what is it that I want to be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? So thank you very much, and thank you to Thrive. And Sylvia, I'll give the screen back to you.